Thank you all so much for joining us again this evening. We're going to continue with the third part of Lord Chaitanya's explorations of the Atmaram verse from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So to begin with our Sankirtan. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Vishnu Padaya Srimati Bhakti Namaste Saraswati Devi Shanyavadi Vasudhya Saraswati Devi Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Vasudhya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Radharani Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Radharani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Shri Hari Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Prabhupada ki Jai. So again, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We're continuing. We'll be concluding this chapter today, and start with our prayers. Shakshurani Bandhina, Shri Guru Venmana, Shri Chaitanya Manishtam, Sangam Kutale, Swan Mukudamayam, Swaprantika, Maham Vishnu Padaya, Vishnu Prasthaya, Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Itinamne, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Chari, Shri Shri So thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak of this chapter in this wonderful book. This chapter is in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This book is written by Srila Prabhupada and is based on the biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Swami. So I pray for all your blessings to do justice to this class today, which we said is part B. Discuss this chapter 15 in 3 parts because it's been quite a detailed explanation by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam called the Atmarama. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been teaching Sanatana Goswami about devotional service, and then at the end of the teachings, Sanatana Goswami had asked Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to explain this verse the way he had explained it to the great personal Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So we've been using this picture in our classes for the last few weeks because when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked the Lord to explain this verse, the Lord first asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to explain from an impersonal perspective, of course. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya here is preaching. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he gave 13 explanations of the verse, which are based on Mayavad philosophy, Sanskrit, grammar, rhetoric, and so on, which was really impressive still, 13 explanations on one verse, but dry and speculative. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this verse in 64 ways or 61 ways. And so these are the explanations that Goswami wanted to hear so much from the Lord himself. These wonderful nectarian explanations that are based on devotional. Continue with that. Today we'll chant the invocation prayers. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. And the translation is: Glory to Shri Chaitanya and Nityananda, glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Shri Gaura Lord Chaitanya. This verse is the 18th verse of the first chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord thus established the import of the 11 words in the Atmaram verse, and then he began to further explain the verse as follows. So, we had discussed last week that the Lord explained this verse word by word. So, we'll recap the verse. Suto vacha atmaramasha munayo dirranta api urukrame kurvantiya haitim bhaktim itam buddha guno harihi. And the translation is, Sutta Goswami said, all different varieties of atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and can therefore attract everyone, including liberated souls. And this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, text 10. So the Lord explained each verse each word from this verse. So he explained atmarama, chap, like that, and now he's going to take the whole verse's meaning on its own. But before that, he gives us some background as to why this verse in particular is so important to have the right meaning of. So we may be wondering, there are many verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, 17,000. There are many verses in all the Vedic scriptures, but the Lord has taken this verse in particular and given so many wonderful meanings to it. So the significance of this verse is that while the Lord is explaining all these different types of transcendentalists, as we discussed, those who are following different paths, whether they're jnana or bhakti or karma yoga and so on. Then we have all the different types of munis that he discussed, all the types of people who are on this path of self-realization, all the different people who are liberated from these paths, and other people who are included by some of the words like nirganta, referring to people who have access to the scripture, or people who have no access to finances, like that. So many different classes of people, if not all different classes of people, included in these definitions. The Lord then went into explaining how these people are all attracted by Krishna, and then he explained how this verse is referring to Krishna, giving many different explanations of the words Guru Premi in reference to Krishna and Harihi in reference to Krishna, Hari. And then he explained how they attain this all attractive Krishna, also mentioning that the Lord is attracted by the words Itam Bhutavana. And he explains how they render service to this Lord, that they become attracted to bhakti, which he also explained in its different ways, the 10 ways of whichever path that they're following, whether they're on the path of jnana, whether they're on the path of karma yoga and so on. And in that way, their belief systems may be completely different to bhakti yoga. But whoever these people may be, and no matter how much progress they've made on those various paths, they could have even reached the heights of achievement, whatever they have had to achieve, they will still be attracted to Krishna, even if they don't want to be attracted to Krishna, or even if they don't set out to be attracted to Krishna, simply because he is the all-attractive Supreme Lord, attract themselves. They will leave whatever they've been doing up to that point, or whatever they've achieved up to that point, and they will take to devotional service to achieve this all-attractive Lord. So if we think about it, that wouldn't be very pleasing to many people. Those who are following these different paths are not thrilled that this verse means that they're going to eventually take devotional service, because they're not setting out in all their paths to take devotional service or to be attracted to Krishna. Some of them are all out belligerent to the Lord. And so the background is that they may try and explain this verse in many different lights, of course, to
Hare Krishna, sound check. Mataji, are you there?
Hare Krishna. Sorry about that. Am I back?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So what we were saying was that
Mataji, it's breaking up. Rajashekar Prabhu, can you hear clearly?
I can hear you, Prabhu, but I can't hear Mataji. Sorry.
Oh, I think she got an internet issue.
That the meaning is suitable, but they may want.
Now we lost the Mataji. But anyway, welcome, Bhaktan Kudarapal Mataji. Thank you for joining us.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Welcome, Mataji. Thank you so much for joining us. The Mataji has an internet issue. She should be joining anytime soon. So sorry about that. Rajesh Shekhar, would you like to share any realizations in the meantime? Welcome to Damodar Prabhu Hare Krishna. Welcome, Damodar Das. Sound check, Damodar Prabhu.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for joining us, Prabhuji. Yeah, Mataji has internet issues, so she'll join. She should join back again. Something happened. Welcome back. Welcome back, Gaura Premi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Welcome,
Sorry
Mataji.
about that.
No problem.
Hi. Am I clear now?
Yes, Mataji, you're clear.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to continue from where I think where you probably last heard me, the explanation as to why the other transcendentalists may want to distort the meaning of this verse. So because it doesn't suit them to know that eventually everybody will want to take to devotional service because Krishna is the supreme, all-attractive personality, they may offer their own explanations of this verse. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has conclusively explained in more than 60 ways why this verse doesn't mean anything else but everybody will eventually become attracted to the supreme, all-attractive Lord and take to devotional service. That has become very clear from everything that we have read so far. So the Lord is giving us some background now as to how these persons may try to, or who these people might be that may try to explain this meaning of this verse in different ways, but how it would suit them to actually accept the meaning, as it will suit them to accept devotional service to the Lord. So the first explanation he gives us is of Brahman. Brahman is usually taken to be the supreme God in the form of light, and that is accepted by most people very widely to be independent and separate of Krishna, actually supreme or superior to Krishna. So let's see what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. The word Brahman means the greatest in all respects. The Lord is the greatest in all opulences. No one can excel him in wealth. No one can excel him in strength. No one can excel him in fame. No one can excel him in beauty. No one can excel him in knowledge. And no one can excel him in renunciation. Thus, the word Brahman actually indicates the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. In the Vishnu Purana 1:12-57, the word Brahman is said to indicate the greatest of all, the Supreme Lord, who, as the greatest, expands with no limit. One may conceive of Brahman's greatness, yet this greatness grows in such a way that no one can estimate how great he actually is. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized in three aspects, but they are one and the same. The Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is everlasting. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 33, it is said that he exists before the manifestation of this cosmic world, that he exists during its continuance, and that it continues to exist after its annihilation. Therefore, he is the soul of everything. He is all-pervading and all-witnessing, and he is the supreme form of everything. So we can see from this definition that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us of Brahman. And Brahman can only indicate Krishna. The word Brahman means the greatest in all respects. So Krishna is known in three features, and the three features are Brahman, his effulgence, Paramatma, which is his partial manifestation that enters into all of creation and into the hearts of all living entities and all atoms and so on, and Bhagavan, which is his eternal and original self, the personality of Godhead, having his personality. Now, of all these aspects, Krishna alone is the source of the other two and is most complete, because Brahman and Paramatma, as we explained previously, are incarnations of the Lord that display only what the Lord needs to display out of all his powers in that incarnation. So this is from the purport of Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. Here Srila Prabhupada explains that all the incarnations of the Lord come for various reasons, and so they only display as much of his power that is needed in that incarnation. So as Brahman, Canto 2 explains, Brahman is there to support the universes, both material and spiritual. All the spiritual universes exist on Brahman, and then the material universe also forms in one part of the spiritual sky, that is Brahman, and all the seeds of creation that will enter into the material universe enter through Brahman from Krishna. This is a function of Brahman. So Brahman does not need to have the Lord's pastimes, his form, or his personality. And so Paramatma, who enters into that universe, that material universe, is there to pervade the universes, to pervade planets in the universes, to pervade the hearts of those living entities within those planets, and he even enters into all the atoms as the witness and the committer for all activities. So in the same way, he doesn't display the Lord's personality or his wonderful pastimes. But Krishna, being the complete supreme personality of Godhead, he displays his eternity, his knowledge, his bliss, his personality, and his pastimes in full in all these opulences. So we can understand then very clearly that Brahman, which means the greatest in all respects, can only refer to him being the source of Brahman and Paramatma. So from this being made very clear by the Lord, we also see that all the forms of the Lord are him. So the distinction actually comes in through the followers, the people who want to separate Brahman and separate Paramatma from Bhagavan, from Krishna, and declare these forms independent and superior to Krishna. So because of this, their modes and methods of worship of these forms to suit their purposes differs, and therefore when they worship Brahman and Paramatma, they don't achieve the same goal as those who worship Krishna. Someone who worships Brahman and Paramatma separates these features from the Lord because they want to become one with Brahman. They want to become God. They don't want to serve God. But one who worships Krishna, they want to serve Krishna and please Krishna. And therefore we see that through the different paths, the different worshippers achieve different things, even though the Lord remains one and the same with these three aspects, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These are three different kinds of transcendental processes mentioned in the Vedic literature by which one can understand and achieve that supreme perfection of the absolute truth. They are the process of knowledge, the process of mystic yoga, and the process of devotional service. The followers of these three processes realize the absolute truth in three different aspects. Those who follow the process of knowledge realize it as personal Brahman. Those who follow the process of yoga realize it as the localized supersoul. And those who follow the process of devotional service realize it as Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. In other words, although the word Brahman indicates Krishna and nothing else, still, according to the process that is followed, the Lord is realized in three different aspects. So this again makes very clear that our paths, the different paths according to the different desires of the worshippers, will take them to different destinations, even though the Lord is the same in all these aspects. As far as devotional service is concerned, there are two divisions. In the beginning, there is Vidhi Bhakti or devotional service with regulative principles. In the higher stage, there is Raga Bhakti or devotional service with pure love. Guru Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained many times throughout his discussions with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami about what devotional services. But we have made very clear here that when it comes to Bhakti Yoga, there's only two divisions. There's Vidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, which is devotional service in regulations and rules, and there is Raga Bhakti. There is no mixing of the paths with Jnana or mystic yoga or karma yoga, or any of the other various paths that one may try to utilize to achieve the supreme goal according to the desire of the worshipper. So it means that bhakti alone stands as the way to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And by following other paths, one will achieve other destinations other than Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the absolute truth, but he is manifested by the expansions of his different energies also. Those who follow the regulative principles of devotional service ultimately attain to the Vaikuntha planet's spiritual world, but one who follows the principles of love in devotional service attains the supreme abode, the highest planet in the spiritual world, known as Krishna Loka or Goloka. So here, the Lord is making clear that even amongst those who follow devotional service, there are different destinations according to whether one actually wants to achieve Krishna or any of its other forms. If someone is lovingly devoted to any of the Lord's Vaikuntha forms, like Lord Ram or Lord Nrsimhadev or Lord Narayan, then they attain to that path and to that goal. They attain the planet of their chosen Lord in Vaikuntha. And if somebody wants to achieve Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, then they engage in Raga Bhakti, which we said is Bhakti in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, and so they achieve Krishna. So one may ask, there's so many different paths and there's so many different ways. Why can't it all lead to the same thing? Because everybody tends to believe that these are all aspects of God, and since we said God is one, why is it that it doesn't lead to Krishna if we go on karma yoga, or if somebody is attracted to one of the other Narayan forms, why can't they just achieve Krishna? So this is like asking, if there's so many different courses at a university, why doesn't it lead to, all the courses lead to the same job? So the answer is very obvious, that everybody has different aptitudes and everybody has different interests and everybody has different desires that they want to achieve. So in the same way, all the paths are different in the same way, because everybody's setting out for different things. Like we said, the intent of desire is what determines what somebody will achieve. So all the paths are correspondingly different. Krishna recognizes and appreciates everybody's independence, so he offers them all these different paths. So if somebody is not intent on achieving Krishna through Bhakti Yoga and they're achieving another path, then they won't achieve Krishna. At the end of the day, in the Lord's divine residence of Vrindavan, he wants that everybody who is there wants to be there. Can we imagine if somebody gets to Vrindavan and then has second thoughts? So Vrindavan and the Vaikuntha planets are managed by Yoga Maya, Krishna's divine potency. And so in the material world, the reflection of that potency is Mahamaya. And she makes sure that all the living entities get the destinations that they deserve. So if somebody is beginning on the path of Bhakti Yoga, they may feel the tests of Maya quite intently, but that is because she is making sure that somebody who gets on the path really knows or really wants to be on that path, and that when they do pass her tests, they are assuredly and independently on the path of Bhakti, knowing that they have chosen Krishna over all the other options that they have. This is the sureness of Bhakti Yoga. Transcendentalists can also be divided into three categories. The word akama refers to one who does not have any material desires. Moksha kama refers to one who seeks liberation from material miseries. And sarva kama refers to one who wants to enjoy by fulfilling material desires. So now Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining all the transcendentalists based on their different desires. And he will help us understand that even though they are attracted by different things, again, their attraction will come to Krishna at the end. They will be engaged in devotional service. In the same way, he has made us see that all the different classes of transcendentalists are ultimately worshipping Krishna in different ways and different paths, and eventually these paths will come to devotional service by the mercy of these devotees. This is the point of all the different paths and all the different yogas, to eventually lead the soul to the goal, which is always Krishna in all circumstances. He is Brahman, he is Paramatma, and he is Bhagavan. So now we have this understanding of these transcendentalists in terms of their desires. So what does sarva kama mean? So kama meaning desire, and sarva meaning everything means those who have all kinds of material desires, whether it's related to possessions or getting into relationships. Any kind of desire that someone has comes under sarva kama. And then we have those who are akama, which is the opposite, because a means to know and kama means desire. But we know, Srila Prabhupada has said that nobody can be without desire. So what does akama actually mean? Srila Prabhupada says that if one doesn't have any desires, they're actually a stone or dead. And yet there are still people who advise those on the spiritual path that they must become desireless. So since we can't become desireless, the solution is that we can become free of material desires, and we can develop purely spiritual desires. And since it's almost impossible for anyone to really understand what spiritual desires are on their own, if we desire what Krishna wants, then we can understand that this is truly a spiritual desire. These are the people who we call akam. So basically the devotees of Krishna who only act according to his desire. So they don't have any material desires. Then we have the third class of person who is desirous of liberation from this material world. So they're not exactly desirous of anything material anymore because they've given up all their material desires. Nor are they desiring what Krishna wants. So they're not akama either. So they get their own category called moksha kama because that is what they desire, moksha or liberation. The most intelligent transcendentalist gives up all other processes and engages in the devotional service of the Lord, even though he may have many desires. This is alluding to a verse in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that says that Krishna consciousness or devotional service to Krishna is for everyone, whether they have desires or no desires, or they want desires for liberation, or they have desires for liberation. Through no kind of activity, whether fruit of action, or the cultivation of knowledge, or the cultivation of mystic yoga, can a person achieve the highest perfection without adding a tinge of devotional service. Except for devotional service, all transcendental processes are just like nipples on the neck of a goat. The nipples on the goat's neck may be squeezed, but they do not supply milk. Therefore, if one is to derive actual perfection from his process, he must take to the devotional service of Krishna. The Srila Prabhupada is giving us another nice example to explain why all paths can't lead to the same goal. If a mechanism is designed to produce one result, it's not going to produce another result, no matter how much it resembles another mechanism. So this is the nipples of a goat. They're not designed to give milk, and they, even though they may resemble the udders of a cow. So even if one tried to milk the nipples of a goat, they still wouldn't get milk from it. So in the same way, the mechanisms of karma yoga and the mechanisms of jnana yoga are not designed to get one to bhakti yoga or the goal of bhakti yoga. The mechanisms of karma yoga to get one material benefits, the mechanisms of jnana yoga to get one knowledge. But bhakti yoga is designed to get one to the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world where everything is categorized by love for Krishna, unalloyed love for Krishna and service in that love, that is what bhakti yoga has been designed around to cultivate. And since the other parts can't help us cultivate these characteristics, they can't get us to the same place. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 7, text 16, Krishna says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha Krishna Arjuna Artha Jigyasa Artha Jnani Cha Bharatarshapha. O best of the Bharatas, 4 kinds of people with very righteous backgrounds take up devotional service to me. They are the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of material profit, and the jnanis or wise men. So out of these 4, it said that those who are distressed and those who desire wealth are called sakama devotees, and those because they have material desires. Whereas the other 2, the inquisitive and the searcher for wisdom, are moksha kama devotees or seekers of liberation. This is a very famous verse from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is describing those transcendentalists who come to him. So this is not referring to devotees who are akama. These are referring to those who have desires. So broadly, it is those who are distressed and those who are in need of wealth, which are material things, who are referred to here, the Sakama devotees, and those who are inquisitive about Krishna, inquisitive about devotional service to Krishna, and those who are wise and who are interested in finding out about Krishna and devotional service. These people are the moksha kamas, generally those who are on the paths of cultivating knowledge, those who are desirous of liberation. So these persons come to Krishna at some point, and they could take to devotional service if they get the mercy of devotees. So this is explained further. Because they all worship Krishna, they are all considered to be very fortunate. In due course of time, if they give up all desires and become pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, they can be considered most fortunate. Such fortunate beginners can develop only in the association of pure devotees of Lord Krishna. When one associates with pure devotees, he becomes a pure devotee himself. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 11. A person who is actually intelligent is able, by the association of pure devotees, to hear descriptions of Lord Krishna and his activities. These activities are so attractive that one who hears of them does not wish to give up such association with the Lord. So we've discussed this at length previously, that one does pious or good activities for punya karana. This is what the Lord explains in chapter 20, text 28 of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But although these pious activities can bring one to encountering devotional service, with whatever motive one may have, whether it's liberation or some material desires, being inquisitive, but if one then gets the mercy and the association and gets to serve people, then one is able to turn this initial contact with devotional service into full-blown devotional service, and then one is on the path of Bhakti Yoga. So this is the way that all these other persons who are on different paths can come to Bhakti Yoga. But it is not that by following their various paths they could attain the same goal as Bhakti Yoga, or by following their paths they could come to Bhakti Yoga independently. They must get the mercy of the Lord's devotees. Except for the association of pure devotees, all association is kaitava or cheating. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 2, which states that all cheating processes which obstruct transcendental realization are to be thrown off. By Srimad Bhagavatam, one can understand reality as it is, and such understanding helps one transcend the three kinds of material miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by the greatest sage, Vyasadeva, and it is a work coming out of his mature experience. By understanding Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering devotional service, one can immediately capture the Supreme Lord within his heart. So this is a comment on this point about association. Lord Chaitanya is clearing up that this association with devotees is very important, because it is the association that grants us devotional service, and all other associations kaitava. So what does that mean? So generally in cheating, one presents something in one way, and then it turns out to be something else. So in the same way, material association starts off seeming quite good for a person. Material association with relatives, material association with friends, with colleagues, it all seems to be profitable in some way or the other. We get ahead in work, we form some relationships at home that make us happy, we have friends that we hang out with. But at all times, as long as these associations are not in devotional service, it gets us more and more bound within the material world in all the various ways. And bit by bit, this adds up to one eventually having to take rebirth and all the struggles and difficulties that come along with it, of course, including death. So whereas these associations seem good in the beginning, they're actually leading to quite a lot of trouble in the end. This is basically cheating. And devotional association with those who are engaged in devotional service is the only relationships that actually are not cheating, because one gets the highest benefit from it. Devotional service frees one. Association with devotees grants us devotional service, and this is ultimately what frees one from the material world and all the sufferings that come along with it. So it is for one's ultimate good. It's good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Lord Chaitanya then explained that the word projita in this Bhagavatam verse, that is Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 2, refers to the desire for liberation. One great commentator explained that the desire for liberation is the most obstructive stumbling block of the path of God realization. There's another comment from the verse that liberation, wanting liberation so much, is as much an obstacle to pure devotional service as wanting material things. So that is because these overriding desires associating with Krishna, from developing pure devotional service to Krishna. But there is still hope, as we see. If one somehow or other comes to Krishna and begins to hear about him, Krishna is so kind that he awards him his lotus feet as shelter. Then the devotee or transcendentalist forgets everything and engages in the devotional service of the Lord. When one comes to the Lord in devotional service or in full Krishna consciousness, the reward is the Supreme Himself. Once engaged for the Supreme, one no longer asks for anything, as do the distressed man and he who desires material possessions. The association of pure devotees as the causeless mercy of the Lord and devotional service itself, these three act so wonderfully that one can give up all other activities and become absorbed in Krishna, whether one is distressed in want of material possessions, or inquisitive, or even if one is a wise man cultivating knowledge. So it's so very wonderful, the assurances that no matter what path one is coming from, no matter what one's desires may be, one can still make progress towards the highest goal. So it reminded me of a class that His Grace Padahari Prabhu gave a few months ago at an initiation ceremony, where he was saying that everybody's on our side in devotional service. He was explaining how the Lord and all his forms, his paraphernalia, his associates, the whole Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, all Srila Prabhupada's disciples, all senior devotees, all devotees, everybody is on the side of anybody who is trying to make progress in devotional service. So with all of these wonderful and extraordinary spiritual transcendental factors there, wherever and whichever path one may be coming from, one will be guaranteed to make progress towards the ultimate goal of achieving Krishna in devotional service. So, in summary, Krishna is the meaning behind all the words in the Atmarama verse. So clearly we've understood that Krishna is the goal of everybody. Up to this point, Lord Chaitanya spoke only of the introduction to the Atmarama verse. Now he explained its real position. So now the Lord is looking at the actual meaning of this verse. There are two kinds of transcendentalists who cultivate knowledge. So now this word transcendentalist here does not refer to devotees, because devotees do not cultivate knowledge. Devotees cultivate devotion, and knowledge comes along as a byproduct of that devotion. So who are these transcendentalists who cultivate knowledge? One of them worships the impersonal Brahman and the other desires liberation. So broadly, this verse was referring to them, because it says atmarama, so out of all transcendentalists, chap, but we are looking at munayo and nirgantaham, those who are on the path of self-realization and those who are liberated. So this is who I've been spoken about specifically, that they will get attracted, because all the others who are bhakti yogis in particular are going to get attracted. But these people in particular are going to get attracted to Krishna. So let's see why this is significant. The Brahman worshippers or monists are further divided into three categories. The neophyte, one who is absorbed in Brahman realization, and one who has actually realized himself as Brahman. If devotional service is added, the knower Brahman can then become liberated. Otherwise, there is no possibility of liberation. So what is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada? What are they actually saying here? Because we've said before that those who are on the path of Brahman can become liberated. So by liberation, of course, we mean that they become free of all material desires. But we could say that this is a temporary state they attain, because at some point they all fall down. And we're going to quote a verse by Lord Brahma, which clarifies this point. So they fall because, like we said, if you get to the point of detachment from material things, but you don't get to attachment to spiritual things, your position is very precarious. And so sometimes even in the very lifetime that the people have who have achieved this liberation, the very lifetime that they've gotten to this material detachment, they get back into material activities like charity and so on, because they have to keep themselves active in something. They haven't been given a higher attraction or a higher attachment to something spiritual. So real liberation is when one gets detached from material things, but at the same time one gets attached to spiritual things. And that is through devotional service, because when one is situated in devotional service, one is situated in complete transcendence, and so one is liberated even while one is within the material body. Anyone who is fully engaged in devotional service and Krishna consciousness is understood to be already realized in Brahman. So this is the state of one who is a devotee who is purely engaged in devotional service to the Lord. So they have realized themselves to be Brahman too, just like those who are on the path of knowledge. So what do we mean by realize themselves to be Brahman? So Brahman, as we said already, is transcendence, it's Krishna. And Brahman is characterized by eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Krishna is characterized by that. So when one realizes themselves to be Brahman, they realize themselves to be the spirit soul. And anyone, of course, who is engaged in devotional service has knowledge that they are the spirit soul. But when one becomes purely situated in devotional service, then one actually realizes this. We could call it that spiritual awakening, where one distinctly becomes aware that they are a spirit soul, that they are completely different from the body. Right now, all of us are considering we are the body, we're considering that we're related to the people we're related to, and we're suffering heat, cold, and so on. But somebody who comes to the level of Brahman actually feels and knows themselves to be a spirit soul and understands themselves to be completely different from the body, such that all conditions of the body suddenly stop affecting them anymore because they know that they're not the body. So this is a very high level of transcendence and happiness, actually, that that even somebody on the path of knowledge can get to, which we were explaining before, well, last week in our previous explanations. Because when somebody gets to this point, they don't have any material cares or problems, and so they're completely joyful. Nothing bothers them or affects them anymore. So for a devotee who is engaged in service to Krishna, they can also get to the stage, but they get to an even better point, because in addition to understanding themselves to be the soul, they also understand themselves to be the servant of Krishna. So they get that spiritual identity at the same time. And because of that, they become firmly situated in that position because they're engaging in that activity in devotional service. And this is why we say that they are permanently liberated versus the ones who are achieving this state but not realizing that they're servants of Krishna and not engaging in devotional service, and therefore in danger of falling down from this position. Devotional service is so strong that one is attracted to Krishna even from the platform of Brahman worship. So even when they get to this level, this awakening on the path of knowledge, those who are on the path of knowledge, as we described before, even though they're so happy already, having been freed from all the material cares, realizing they're not the material body, they still get attracted to Krishna. And we gave the example before, and now again the examples are given of the four Kumaras and Sanatana Goswami, who already established transcendentalists. They've already understood themselves to be on the Brahman platform, having the qualities of Krishna. And so they were in a state of complete bliss, and yet they were still attracted to Krishna and still attracted to devotional service. Now the important point is made that it was by virtue of hearing the transcendental qualities of Krishna from Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Narada. So how did these transcendentalists, like on other paths, like the four Kumaras and Srikadeva Goswami and the Navayogendras, how did they come to devotional service? They encountered it, but then they got the mercy of pure devotees, like Lord Brahma, like Lord Shiva, like Narada. Therefore, they were able to take to devotional service. Sometimes one becomes attracted to Krishna and his transcendental qualities simply by looking upon the beauty of his transcendental body. In this case, also one abandons the desire for liberation and engages in his devotional service. Then we go on. There are two kinds of souls who are liberated even while in material bodies: the soul liberated by devotional service and the soul liberated by cultivation of knowledge. The soul liberated in devotional service, attracted by the qualities, transcendental qualities of Krishna, becomes more and more elevated, whereas those who are engaged in dry speculation and simply cultivate knowledge without devotion fall on account of their many offenses. So this is a very important point. So in addition to those persons falling from that point of liberation that they achieve because they haven't been situated in spiritual life, this is also because they make offenses. They make offenses to Krishna because they think that Krishna is different from Brahman, and they also make offenses to his devotees. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 32. So this is the verse. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated, but who are without even a touch of devotional service, is not pure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe penances and austerities, they are sure to fall down into this material existence, for they do not take shelter of your lotus feet. Rather than having the shelter of Krishna, they are offending Krishna. Lord Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54. One who is actually situated in Brahman realization is fully joyful, has no reason to lament or desire anything, and is equal to everyone. Thus, he is eligible for pure devotional service. So it means that even those persons who have already achieved such liberation, have achieved this state of joy, they still have to get to that permanent state by taking shelter of Krishna in devotional service. This is what the Lord himself says. Then they'll be permanently situated in liberation. This was illustrated by Bhuvamangal Thakur, who in his later life wrote, I was situated as a monist in order to become one with the Supreme, but somehow or other I contacted a naughty boy and became his eternal servitor. In other words, those who attain self-realization by the execution of devotional service attain a transcendental body, and being attracted to the transcendental qualities of Krishna, engage fully in pure devotional service. Anyone who is not attracted to Krishna is understood to be still under the spell of Maya. So it means even if they're liberated, they're still under the spell of Maya. But one who is attempting to be liberated, so that means not even on the level of pure devotional service and not even yet Brahman realized in pure devotional service, but just attempting by the process of devotional service is actually liberated from the spell. So why? It's because of mercy. The factor of mercy means that anybody who is sincerely on the path of devotional service, even if they haven't yet achieved Brahman realization as high as those transcendentalists from the other paths, they're sure through that mercy to attain it, to attain that permanent liberation. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many instances recorded of devotees who became liberated in this life simply by engaging in devotional service. So this concludes the chapter. Thank you all so much for your kind attention. And next week we're going to continue with chapter 16. Lord will conclude his explanations on the atmarama verse and his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. Shri Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions, comments, anything I need to clarify? Or try to clarify?
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Mataji.
Mataji. Thank you
Krishna.
for
Sorry.
wonderful class, Dandava Pranams. I want to ask you if devotees, when they are pursuing the 7 coverings of the universe, they had to pass through the cleaning process of fiery, watery, air until the ethery ones, until to gain the subtle body. And if this body is identical with the grossly one that the devotee has in this life, or is younger, or how he is looking after.
So
Hare
what I
Krishna.
understood, Hare Krishna. So what I understood from that description, that's from the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is that this is for the devotee who has not purified themselves of all their desires yet. For the devotee who has become purified of all material desires, as soon as they leave the body, they go straight to Krishna. But if anybody still has material desires, especially if there's transcendentalists who, so that means other kinds of persons on other paths who may not have perfected devotional service. So they come to that, to Brahmaloka basically, where this is happening. And they've carried with them their subtle body, and they've carried with them, with the subtle body, that mind and that intelligence and that false ego. And then they get into a gross body, which allows them to complete their devotional service or their activities of transcendentalism, so that they can get freed of all of their previous contaminations, whatever other material desires are left. And then they go through all the stages of getting through those different layers. So yes, they would take on a gross body as they had before they left this world. That is the kind of gross body that they would have. I don't think it would necessarily be younger, but it would not be subject to the same difficulties that they would have on this planet, because as Srimad Bhagavatam says, on Brahmaloka you don't get old and you don't die. So they would get a body that is similar to what they had here, but not subject to the same miseries. A body that is subject to the conditions of Brahmaloka, and then they're able to execute whatever activities they still need in order to become purified of all the desires they still had left, and go through purification of all of those coverings, the subtle coverings and the gross coverings, until they are just the spirit soul and able to go to Vaikuntha. Is that okay, Mataji?
Thank you, Mataji. Very wonderful answer. Thank you, Dandava Pranams. Hari Bol.
Thank you for the service. Hare Krishna. Is there any other questions, comments?
Rajesh Shekhar Prabhu, welcome. You are going to say something, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just wanted to say thank you. That was a wonderful explanation. It's cleared up a lot. It was very clear to me, and it's cleared up a lot of things that were sitting in my head. So thank you very much for that.
All the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. Thank you all for your blessings every week.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, we will go on to the bhajan for this week. This is Bhaja Hure Mana, and this is one of my favorites. It's highlighting the importance of us engaging in the processes of devotional service, and describing what life is like when one is engaged in services to the material world. It's written by Govindadas Kaviraj, who is the brother of Ramachandra Kaviraj, a very dear associate of Narottam Das Thakur, and disciple of Srinivasacharya, who is one of the second generation of preachers with Narottam Das Thakur. Rajahure mana Shri Nandanam Nana Abhayachar Nara Vindare Baja Hure mana Shri Abhayachar Nara Vindare Durlabha The mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which make one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of the same two persons. Both in the day and at night, Adam made sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain. For a fraction of flickering happiness, I have loosely seeks now, wicked and miserly men. What assurance of happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons, and family? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari. It is the desire and great longing of Govindada's to engage himself in the nine processes of bhakti, mainly hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend, completely offering to God. It was very sound. Shri Govindas Kaviraj ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So again, thank you all so much for your kind attention and participation. And please join us next week for chapter 16. Shri Gaura Ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.